Hello and welcome to Authentic Parenting. I am Anna Seawold. As part of our special 10-year anniversary celebration, I am sharing a series of episodes throughout January that look back, look forward, and honor this community. If you haven't yet, I invite you to listen to the short personal message that opened the month. I tried very hard to keep it to 10 minutes for 10 years, but it turns out it's 12 minutes long. Some things just need a little more space. This episode is a true blast from the past, our 100th episode, and it's worth pausing on that number because at that time, reaching 100 episodes was a very big deal. Back then, pod fading was common. Many podcasts didn't make it past their first few episodes, and even those that did often faded by episode 20. So getting to episode 100 felt monumental. I had to look up some statistics. My Google search revealed that in 2018, industry veterans reported that many new podcasts pod faded by their 7th episode. Most podcasts, around 90%, did not make it past their 3rd episode. Of podcasts that did continue, 90% of those would typically cease production by their 20th or 21st episode. So as you can see, reaching 100 was a big deal. There's also a deeply personal memory tied to this milestone. My daughter was 7 at the time, and she made me a handmade card that read, "Happy 100 podcast episode. Here is all you did last week. Did the dishes, cleaned the whole house, and made a podcast." Inside, she turned the word mother into an acronym. Mindful, optimistic, thoughtful, helpful, elegant, and real. I still have that card. And there is a little picture of me with my headphones and my glasses that she did a cutout and pasted in the card, and a lot of sparkles. I will post it in our Facebook group for you to see the card. The episode opens with my former producer's voice, warning that it contains explicit language, which still makes me smile. I had completely forgotten about that. You'll hear the old name of the podcast, the old intro, and a much younger version of my voice. This episode includes audience participation, something I always loved because it made the podcast feel real, personal, and more intimate. I didn't change a thing. This is the 100th episode exactly as it was produced back in the day. Listening back now, what stays with me most is the closeness of it all, how personal it felt, how much heart was present. It's a reminder that we don't leave our past behind. We stand on it. We build from it. Those early chapters are part of us and part of our history, whether we are talking about the podcast, a family, or a life. And next, in the anniversary series, I'll be sharing the 200th episode, an honest, thoughtful interview with me, led by one of our longtime listeners who once ran our Facebook group. It's another milestone, another moment in time, and I'm really looking forward to sharing it with you. Please enjoy, and thank you for listening.
This episode contains explicit language which may be unsuitable for children. Parental discretion is advised.
Hello and welcome to Authentic Moments, a podcast that gives you ideas and strategies for personal growth in the context of parenting. I am Anna Seawold, a psychologist turned into parent educator, and I am passionate about many things, including personal development, living life authentically, and parenting from the heart. Today is a big day. It is our 100th episode. Yay! Important milestone in the life of a podcast, and it totally calls for a celebration. And we're doing it. I want to celebrate with you, and I want to celebrate you. First of all, I am so grateful to you, my dear listener. It is because of you I am here today. Because you have been listening to me over the course of 2 years, I wanted to hear your voices for this special celebratory 100 episode. Yes, this is an audience participation episode. I want to recognize you. Thank you for carving out time from your busy life and tuning into the show. It means a lot. I value that you take time for self-development, learning, and growing. Thank you for investing in yourself. Thank you for listening to me. And thank you for your kind support. I also want to say thank you to a very special person who works on this podcast. He edits the show for me, so you guys will enjoy a great audio experience. Danny Asmund, thank you so much for working with me. It turns out, as he edits the show, he also listens to the episodes. In one of his recent emails, this is what he wrote to me. I really love that your show takes a different approach to parenting. It's already helped me with my 2 kids, and I look forward to listening to it as I work on it. You are a great interviewer. Thank you for your kind words. And I am so grateful for all you do for the show. Podcasting could be lonely. When I'm behind a mic, sometimes I wonder, hey, is this thing on? Are people listening to me? It turns out they are. Thousands and thousands of you, and it's kind of hard to wrap my mind around it. It's very grounding. I also always wonder about my listeners. Who are they? Where do they live? What do they do? Where do they take me with them? Okay, I don't want to know that one. So, today, we get a small taste of who the listeners of Authentic Moments are and what they have to say about the show. I posted some guiding questions, and their answers are around those questions. What do you like about the show? How did you find Authentic Moments? What was your first episode? Do you have a favorite episode? What have you learned from the show, and how have you applied it to your life and parenting? How do you listen to the podcast? And finally, hopes and wishes for the future. I know that we have a special bond. I know we have a wonderful community, and I feel very blessed for that. Let's continue learning and growing together. Here is to another 100 episodes. Find and embrace your authenticity, my dear ones. Enjoy this very special episode. In the life of a podcaster, there are some important moments, like the first time you get the fan mail. I was podcasting for a while, and I wasn't sure if people were listening to my show until one day I opened my email and I received a letter from Isabel. It was a long email, and I was so overjoyed. So let's hear from Isabel, who validated that I do indeed have listeners. Also, if you have been a regular listener to the show, you know that Isabel was a guest. I will have a link in the show notes to her episode. Let's hear what she has to say.
Hi, my name is Isabel Stevenson. I live in Florida. I have 6 children ranging in the age from 11 to 23. I am a certified family coach, and I love to listen to Anna's podcast. I like the guests you have on the program. There's always like a golden nugget I can take away. I like the way you present practical tools to parents, and you just make authentic parenting look like attainable. Like we can do this. Like there's so many parents out there who want to parent in a gentler way without all the punishments, and you have just some great ideas that you talk about, and also that you help. For example, you had an episode where you go into childhood trauma, and even that was very insightful and helpful, because we need to work on ourselves first if we want to be able to be there for our children. So I like the range of different topics that you present. Usually I listen when I have some monotone housework to do that I would prefer not to do. So I need something interesting to listen to. Makes it easier. I think just continue on that path of giving us practical tools and how we can implement authentic parenting. You've done a great job so far choosing different topics. So I'm not sure if I have a specific one. Just keep going with what you're doing. It's great. Yes, more recently you mentioned in an interview that you parent as Anna, and that kind of jumped out at me. I'm like, yes, that's so true. I have to parent as Isabel, not as my neighbor, my best friend, my aunt, whatever. I need to be myself, and it's okay to parent as Isabel. So that jumped out at me. Also, when you had, I think one of the first episodes I listened to was when you had the author of the book, The Danish Way of Parenting. And since I am from a different country, that kind of spoke to me. And it was just so interesting to compare how different countries have different styles of parenting. So that was a very informative and delightful episode. Yes, I just wish you to continue with much success, that you have 100 more episodes, and that the parents that are listening will gain a lot of insight and be able to implement what they're learning from you.
Next up is Tina, a listener from Chicago. And Tina is a fairly new listener to the show, a really dedicated one. Tina has contacted me via Facebook Messenger not long ago, and she wrote a really beautiful note thanking me for doing the podcast. I spoke with her on the phone one day subsequently, and you may hear her on the show one day in one of the upcoming episodes. Keep your ears open for that episode.
My name is Tina Park, and I live just outside of Chicago in a suburb called Elmhurst, and I am the mom of 4 great kids. I have a senior daughter who's 17, a freshman daughter who's 14, a 4th grade son, and a 2nd grade daughter. And I discovered Anna's podcast when she was a guest on the Mindful Mama with Hunter Clark-Field. And I was intrigued by your accent and your story. And so then I found your podcast. And the first one that I listened to was How to Stop Yelling at Your Kids. I was completely drawn by the title, because that is a practice for me that I have been working on for years. In part because it gets very loud in the house with 4 kids, but I know that yelling never works. Still, sometimes I find myself resorting to it. So what I love about your podcast is all of the bits of wisdom. I write each of these little reminders down about, how I want to be passionate about personal development and parenting from the heart, because I really want to connect with my kids. I want to have a strong relationship so that when they are off and grown, they want to come back and visit me. They want to go on trips and things like that. So that's very important to me. And I like your attitude about that parenting is a process of parallel growth. It's so true that my kids have taught me more than I could have ever imagined or experienced without them. That podcast that was the first is also my favorite. I've re-listened to it a couple times already. And it's just a great reminder of how, as you're practicing mindfulness, that it's all about choosing your next behavior and choosing it, not just reacting or falling into it or letting it escalate to something else that you'll feel not so great about after. And I do listen to the podcasts. As soon as they come out, I've gone back and listened to the archived ones. I do it all the time while I'm exercising, while I'm folding laundry, while I'm driving. Every chance I get, I feel that your podcast, as well as others that I have subscribed to, are like mini classes. And they expand my mind and they get me to think about things, and they make for interesting discussion with my kids too. I share things that I learned with them. I really do like the little questions that you ask the guests at towards the end about what inspires them. So keep doing some more of those. Those are really interesting to think about.
Next, we have Katja from Germany. I had a chance to see Katja on Skype twice. She participated in one of my recent webinars, How to Help Children Process Big Feelings, and we had a really good chat. And one day, I was going to a doctor's appointment, and we were speaking on Skype, and I just started crying and I lost it because I was really fearful. And Katja, thank you so much for supporting me, offering words of kindness and comfort. Then she followed via email to check on me. So she has a very special place in my heart. Thank you so much for being there for me. Let's hear what she has to say.
My name is Katja Wagner, and I'm calling from Germany, from Hamburg. Anna, and I really want to say I love your podcasts. First of all, I love the enthusiasm on the work you are doing. I think it's really, really great how much effort you put onto it. I love that you clearly state that raising children goes along with personal growth, because I think this is something really, really important. And I experienced it even between my friends, that this is not clear to everybody. I love that you always have different guests. You have a huge variety of guests, and you have a lot of variety of topics you address with them. This is what I really like, because it makes it so interesting. And every week I love to look what kind of topic you address that week. Then I want to say thanks for all the advice I can take from your podcast. I really like that you clearly give advice. For me, at least I can take advice out of it. And I like that I even have the chance talking to you and have the possibility of asking questions. That really helps me a lot. And for sure, what makes it really vivid is that you have all these different examples you give from your experience. And these examples make it easy for me to understand what you are saying. And for sure, and that's what I like really much, is that it makes the whole podcast so authentic. So thanks a lot for that. I think I discovered you around May this year. I think it was, you were talking in a video episode with Christina Louise, with somebody else. What struck me most was that you were saying parenting is a great way for self-teaching. And I thought that was a really interesting approach. And then in the same episode, I heard you saying, we need to become a detective of the children's signs, and then we can cover their needs. And that was really, really what I thought, this is interesting. I have to see who Anna Seaworld is. Googled you, and then I found your podcasts and started to listening to them every week. The first episode I listened to, I can't really remember, because at the time I discovered you, there were also already so many podcasts that I just started in the middle of them and just picked whatever I needed. So now I can't remember what was the first one. So far, I learned a lot of things from you. I will just give you some examples. To me, and this is the most important thing, the way you are talking about raising children is mind-changing for me. And I think it's mind-changing for a lot of people. Because I really think that it is important that we start thinking differently about our children. Even last week or this week, I talked to another friend who was rather old-fashioned in raising children, and his attitude is that children have to obey to what adults say, and which is, to me, not the right way to do it, because the thought behind this is that because they are smaller and supposedly don't know as much as we do, they have to do what we want to do. And I think this is not correct. This is not how we should treat our children. Instead, you, for example, are saying everything starts with my mindset. And for example, in one of the shows, I heard you saying, there's no misbehaving. And I thought, no misbehaving? This is a nice idea, a different idea. And you explained it instead and said, instead of asking, how can I get rid of this behavior? You have to ask, why is this behavior happening? What is this behavior telling me? This again was the idea of being a detective and understanding what the needs of the children are. And I think this really is the right way to go. And this is what I really liked and what I learned from you. For the future, I'm looking forward to listening to many, many more of your shows. I hope for you and the show that you reach tons of people, because I think it's really worth listening to it. I honor your work because I think it helps parents to easily raise their children in peaceful homes, and it helps children to grow up in a safe, loving, and kind environment. And for sure, I hope to learn a lot more from you and your podcast concerning raising children. Thanks, Anna, for everything you do.
Next, we have Carla von Walsum, a wonderful lady from the Netherlands who currently lives in the state of Florida. A listener first who has become a friend. In fact, I just got off the Skype call with her. Carla has a very interesting story, and I love what she does for work. Again, keep your ears open because Carla is going to be a guest on the show very soon.
I came 13 years ago to the USA. I'm originally educated first as a classical flutist. I had a great career, but I had different passions, so I became psychologist. Then I wanted to help people heal emotionally more than only with talk therapy, and I stumbled upon family constellation work, which totally became my passion. Like parenting is too, healing people with the ways of thinking and patterns that run through the family to become more the parent they are supposed to be or ought to be. And then I was looking into the constellation work. And lately, again, I stumbled upon the podcast of Anna because one of my colleagues, Mark Wolin, did a great interview, which I was invited for to listen to. That's how I found Anna, your program. And I was so pleasantly surprised because one of the words in Anna's title is authentic, and authenticity is so extremely important to me in the relationship parent-children. I am an advocate of, yes, of respect. So yes, we need to respect the elderly, and we certainly need equally respect the children. That does not mean that we give them everything. That means that we give them what they need in order to become who they are already, and not taking over too much, not controlling too much, but guiding them with the right tools to become and to remain their brightest selves. So I was very pleased to listen to the podcast, because I know that everybody brings the legacy of ancestors with them. And the positive legacy is great, but the traumatic experiences is often a little bit less great. And clinical psychology science proves that traumas are stored in the limbic part of the brain for like 6 to 7 generations. But how do we heal that? And the family constellation method has great answers to that. So that became my work, and that's how I found Anna. Actually, I like most of the episodes. What I like with you is, Anna, that you bring a variety of topics and different people, and you touch many different topics. I wish that you would reach more people, because I would like you to get more internationally out there too, in countries where people think totally different yet. I want people and parents to be happy. I want the children foremost to be happy, but the parents too. And that's what your work does. Your beautiful podcast has that intention. That's why I love your work, and I want so much to support it.
Next, we have Angela. Oh, what can I say about Angela? She's truly an angel. It was Angela who suggested that I create a donation button on my website for the podcast, because she said that she finds a lot of value in the show and she wants to pay it forward. She wants to say thank you, and she just doesn't know how to. She feels like she wants to give something because she gets so much value out of the show. I am really touched. I hesitated at first, but I went ahead and I created a donation button. The next morning, I woke up, I checked my email, and the first email that I opened was a notification from PayPal that said, "You received a donation." I looked at the name, and sure enough, it was Angela. A really generous amount, and I am so grateful and thankful. I was speechless. I read the email and I kept saying to myself, oh my gosh. Then I shared the news with my family at dinner time. I said, guys, you won't believe, one of my listeners donated money and it's this amount. And my daughter literally dropped her food. She looked at me and she said, oh my gosh, mommy, really? So Angela, thank you so much. You have a special place in my heart. And to all of you listeners, if you feel like Angela, if you feel like you want to support the show, because a lot goes into producing this show. There are many costs that you don't see. There are many hours that I spend putting together the show, creating the show. It will mean so much to me if you went to my website today, authenticparenting.com/podcast, and gave from your heart. It's not the amount that matters. It's the intention. And I truly, truly value that. Let's hear what she has to say. And sorry, Angela, I hope you didn't mind me sharing this information.
I'm Angela, and I have 2 children, 5 and almost 7. I love the show because it is exactly what I needed at exactly the right time. And I didn't even know it. It spoke about the issues that we've dealt with as a child and grown into an adult with, and how that affects our parenting. And that to me was huge. I don't think it was something that I realized played such a huge factor in my parenting. I spent so much time trying to not be my own parents that I didn't realize my own trauma and my own issues as a child was affecting my parenting. It was revolutionary for me. And I also just felt understood. The platform of the podcast, the people that were speaking, and Anna's own perspective were so helpful in you can help children by helping parents. And the biggest part for me was also helping parents understand children. That was another aspect that I thought I understood. But when you get into the details of children and how they grow and how their brains are, that's something that I didn't have the details on. And through listening to the shows, I've picked up things here and there and used it in my own parenting. I've been listening to the podcast, it feels like for several months. The first time I was introduced to you was through another podcast, and it was through your own story. And I immediately started listening. And I will tell you that each topic, I'm just like, I don't know if this podcast is going to really resonate with me. But, I push play. I'm driving in my car while I'm working, driving to appointments. And every single episode has resonated somehow with me. Many of the interviewees have had something in their past that has formed how they are as a parent, and they're aware, or they're struggling with the same issues as a parent that I'm struggling with, anger, yelling. How do you get your child to do what you need them to do without punishing or threatening? And of course, yelling at them or spanking them. Those were just over and over the different ways that people parented, and again, were dealing with their own issues. Every single episode, there was always something that I walked away with. And like I said, initially I'd be like, I'm not sure if I'm going to get anything from this, but there was always something. I really like the episodes where you and your partner discuss kind of your own life and the situations that you're dealing with as a parent. And I remember in one of the episodes you talked about with your own daughter and a birthday party and planning and getting the favors. And you expressed very well do you get involved in her decision on what the favor is that she gives? Do you, how involved do you get as a parent? And I just felt like, you're a professional, you're educated in this, and I go through those exact same steps. And that was helpful. And you explained your strategy and your thinking and when you got angry. And I felt like that was so relatable. And you've done it several times in different episodes. But I remember the birthday party favors standing out as like authentic. I know that's the name of the show, but it really comes through your authenticity. Nobody's putting on airs. Everybody is exactly who they are. And actually, I do think there was the one about, was it yelling? Though I think that one really hit a nerve for me. I'm trying to remember specifically, but you also shared another story of not a success story, one where you were trying to figure out a better way to do it. Or maybe it was the mindful parenting. I think that might have been it, where you said that you kept asking your daughter, are you ready? Why aren't you ready? The bus will be here in 15 minutes. And I think that's the one that I was like, this is me. I deal with this every day and I talk too much. Like, you came to that realization, and your daughter said, you talk too much. And I think I was adding to my own daughter's anxiety, but your experience helped me to see that. And I have been trying to be very mindful of it ever since. And I think that was around the time that I was like, I need to call Anna or I need to reach out to her because I need her. I hope she can help me, because it really struck a chord. I haven't listened to all the older episodes. Like I said, I just started listening earlier this year. But for me, I like to learn, and I like to learn about, how the kids work and how parents work and our brains. And I feel like that if you could focus on that for an episode, if you haven't already, or do a refresher one, because I think that that's really important, like emotions and why children behave the way they do. We interpret it one way because we're kind of seeing it from a perspective of the parent. We might have a shadow of remembrance of what it was like to be a child. But when you realize that children are still developing and parts of their brain are more dominant than others, for me as a parent, that has been very helpful. And I'd love to learn more about that. Well, definitely keep doing what you're doing because it's fabulous.
Yeah.
It's like such a service for everybody. I share it because I wish parents had this knowledge and this information, and I wish they would just hand it out at doctor's office and at schools. All parents need this kind of information and support that you provide. It's so helpful. And that you just keep going because I love it. Like I said, it's very valuable. For me, it was a lifesaver. It really was.
Next, we have Corinne Seeley, PhD. She's a pediatric sleep consultant and sleep educator, and she was a recent guest on the podcast 2 episodes ago. Her show is titled Why You Might Be Feeling Tired, Negative, and Overwhelmed. Let's hear what she has to say.
My name is Dr. Corinne Seeley, and I am the owner of Sleep by Dr. Seeley and a pediatric sleep specialist and educator here in London, Ontario. And I came across Authentic Moments through a podcast of a colleague that I had about 10 years ago in the sleep research lab. And I heard his podcast and I really fell in love with it. I'm not really someone who actually listens to podcasts. This is the only one. And the message of finding your authentic self in parenting is one that I'm very passionate about. And I love hearing everyone's stories and just thinking and reflecting on the questions that Anna asks. I think it's a great message for parents and a great thing to practice. So I fell in love with it and have been listening ever since. Well, the very first episode I listened to was one of my favorites, and I've loved them all, but I think in particular the one with Josh on grief dreams, I just thought it was really interesting, and listening to his experience and knowing that it all started from a dream and he listened to his dreams, and from that he created his own business and his own practice, and he's reached so many people from listening to a dream. So, and he's made grief kind of in such a positive light. So I really loved hearing that story and how he has kind of transformed. And I love hearing just how people transform and become their authentic self when they become a parent. I usually listen to the podcast when I'm on the bus in the morning. So I take my son to daycare, and it's a pretty far commute, but I love starting my morning by listening to a nice podcast that kind of uplifts me and just makes me realize that I'm doing the right thing. I'm on the right path to being my own authentic self. So I love listening to it in the morning. I think it's a great morning podcast. And wishes and hopes to move forward for the podcast. I think it will reach people who might not, just through sharing it and having people listen to it, you'll reach interesting people who have great life stories. And I just hope that it can reach more people. And I'd love to hear who comes across it, who reaches out to Anna, and what new guests we have on that we get to listen to. So I'm interested to follow along and see who else comes out, because I found it through listening and I reached out, and hopefully by me sharing it on my page, more people will reach out and it can grow in that way.
Next, we have Melanie, a fairly new listener to the show, and I love how you can hear in the background Melanie's baby's sounds. Cute, very cute.
Hello, my name is Melanie. I am from upstate New York, and I have a beautiful daughter who is 18 months old. And I actually just discovered podcasts not too long ago, which is kind of funny. But I was listening to some breastfeeding podcasts, and I remember I one of the guests on there was talking more about conscious, gentle parenting. And so I decided to do a search of my own on that and came across the Authentic Moments podcast and started listening and got hooked very quickly. It has really been able to teach me how to grow as a person and really challenge me to grow as an individual so that I can be, the absolute best role model I can for my daughter, and to be able to have the capacity to support her, to understand her emotional needs, and to be able to guide her in the best way possible. And it not only has helped my relationship with my daughter, but it has helped all of the relationships in my life really to understand people's emotional needs and how they cope and deal with things, and how I myself cope and deal with things. So I think one of the favorite podcast episodes of Authentic Moments I listened to was, I have quite a few, and a few that I've referred to my friends as well, but there was one with Cynthia Mezzaferro, and she had a book, Powerful Beyond Measure, and I have been reading that, and that has made a big difference and really helped me realize some triggers and stuff that I have, and has really been able to make the way I deal with, my daughter, if she's having some trouble or whatnot, really be able to deal with it in a much better and smoother way so that we can all understand one another. So I have to say that has probably been my favorite one so far. I just really enjoy learning how to grow as a mom, as a wife, just as a person. And it's just been great. Well, I really love, the time, like how long the podcast lasts. Like I said, I'm new to podcasts, so I'm not sure if that's like a typical, but it's nice and clear and concise with a lot of great information covered. And I think like the one thing that I am focusing in on a little bit is with my daughter being 18 months old, knowing how to help be able to support her during tantrums, or if she can't quite communicate with me that well, how to be able to still be there for her and support her and help her move through the big emotions she's feeling, even if she can't quite communicate back with me very well, is something I've been, I wouldn't say struggling, but wanting to learn more, eager to learn more about. Just one other thing was, I guess, how to help support like the grandparents, because my dad hangs out with her, a few days a week for a few hours. So I guess I don't know if and maybe you possibly have already covered this and I just haven't caught it yet, but how to support like the grandparents and not teach them, because I know, but like, what do you do if, your parents parent a different way than you do, and they're with your children, they're connected to them? Like, how do you not get the mixed signals, or have my daughter feel inadequate, or like her feelings aren't her needs being met with one person, but at home they normally are? I guess that kind of juggling act too. Best wishes, and I really look forward to continuing to learn and find new resources that you provide throughout the podcast, and just continuing to grow as a mom and as a person, and be able to experience all this through your podcast. It's been great.
Next, we have Ashley. She's a licensed social worker from Maine, and I am happy to learn that the podcast helps her both personally and professionally. Ashley posts a question which many parents ask, and I think I'm going to dedicate another episode to that question. Let's hear what she has to say.
My name's Ashley Lehman. I live in South Portland, Maine, and I have two kids at home, two girls, a 7-month-old and a 3-year-old. And I think I first came across this podcast, the Authentic Moments podcast, when I was listening to the Mindful Mama podcast, and you were a guest on that show. And I was really interested in kind of the perspective you brought to that. more so on bringing in the lens of trauma and kind of what parents kind of go through and how that might resurface or come out when we find ourselves as parents and we're trying to parent. And so I really liked that lens. And I think it came from more of a personal and professional interest of mine, because I am an LCSW here in Maine. And so I currently supervise a program that works with kids and families and parents for the most part. And I've really worked with kids since I've been in the field. So I share the interest in working with parents to be able to reach the kids, and really have learned that through my experience of that's so essential to be able to target and work with the parents and have compassion and understand where they're coming from in order to reach the kiddos. And so I found like I could relate from a professional standpoint, but then really felt like I could relate from a parent standpoint as well, which was, I think, the really coolest thing. And just showing how relatable you were to be able to reach both spectrums, you know. Someone that works with kids and has challenging behaviors all the time. I, of course, still come home and struggle with my little ones, especially the 3-year-old, where she is in her kind of, you know, you never know what's going to surface for her. So I found that, you know, I come with skills and stuff like that. But then when I get home, I still have, of course, those challenges. So I found it really helpful to be able to relate personally and then also gain some professional perspective as well. So when I listen to podcasts, I'm usually like on the road. So it really depends on how much I'm driving that week for work, is how many podcasts I'm listening to. My first podcast, I think it was the one that you were the question about overparenting, and you had a guest on there and talking about kind of parenting in different cultures and comparing our kind of society and our parenting here in the U.S. and kind of that question of, are we overparenting? And I'm a new listener, so I haven't listened to a ton. I think I've listened to that one and maybe a couple others at this point, but it's definitely now on my favorites. So when I look forward to when I have longer commutes and I can listen to some of these podcasts. Sure. I mean, I'd like to just continue to listen and, get more information that, I guess touching on like the co-parenting, and how to become more and more on the same page, how to have those kind of conversations of intentionally being on the same page, and not in front of the kiddos. I think sometimes I struggle with, I don't want to lecture my husband on what I think necessarily. So trying to do that in a sensitive way, because he can just kind of assume I'm social working him or something. Based on what I've heard so far, it will be very interesting and relatable to me, and to make my long car rides throughout the state of Maine more enjoyable.
And lastly, we have Elizabeth. Elizabeth has a special place in my heart because she's one of the oldest listeners of the podcast. She was with me right from the very beginning. I also had a chance to meet Elizabeth in real life. She used to live in New Jersey, and I had a chance to meet her in person. I was invited to speak at the Holistic Moms Network, and I met her in real life many, many months ago. Currently, she and her family, her husband and their son, are traveling in their RV. They sold their house and they are on this amazing, crazy adventure. Elizabeth, I want to say you are not alone. We are connected. And thank you so much for the heartfelt message.
My name is Elizabeth. I'm a mama to a 6-year-old little boy called Ziggy. I have learned many, many things from you. I have found that when Ziggy was born, I threw myself into nutrition, holistic learning about healing and remedies, and for my family and for my kiddo. but then I kind of got lost myself. I was so focused on my family and my child that I kind of got lost. And I found that you helped me to dig deeper and learn more about myself, to see that I can be a better mom by going deeper into myself, to deal with some of the triggers and my struggles that I have, that it's how much it reflects in my family if I don't deal with them. Favorite podcast? I really don't have a favorite podcast because I truly believe that you have a knack for diving into so many different areas of everyday life that actually might be a key element for many of us to shine a light on, that, hey, this is something I need to develop a little bit deeper on. And I love how you go into trauma, because a lot of the past is painful and we do need to deal with it. And I think most of us have been brought up to just sweep it under the rug and it stays there. Like, I really love the podcast about emotions, like what kind of parent you are, because I remember I had to relearn emotions when I was parenting, because my upbringing was so different from the way I'm parenting or trying to parent. Yes, emotions are raw and brutal and beautiful and every kind of way. So that's something I love, that every episode is something that we need. I love how some of your speakers, some of the people you interview are like no nonsense. You had, I think her name was Heather Chauvin. She was very harsh, like in some sense, like wake up, kind of like using screw you, fuck you, whatever. And I was like, whoa, it was very grabbing, but I liked that. I liked how no nonsense she was. And I felt like, yeah, sometimes I need to be more no nonsense with myself. Let's deal with this now. Let's not pussyfoot around this. So I love that you really bring so many different speakers who have so much knowledge to give us, because parenting can be so lonely, and so it's very challenging. It's one of the hardest things that I have ever done as parent my child. And if somebody told me how hard it was, I don't think I would have believed it. But I think especially if you're trying to do it more mindfully, more consciously, then yes, it is very hard, because we are faced with so many things that we have to learn to deal with. I'm also very thankful that you keep talking about self-care, because again, when I was brought up, I never saw my mom take care of herself. It was something you were taught. You have to take care of everybody. You have to make sure everybody is okay. And we were not taught self-care. We were not taught that the more you can give if your cup is full. And just keep talking about that, because maybe one day it will sink in. And one of my biggest motto is what you told me on one call, that I struggled going out at night when I was tired. And you said, you have to go out so you can be a better mom. And sometimes when my kid whines and says, I don't want you to go out, I want you to stay home with me. And I say, I want to stay home with you. And I understand you don't want me to go out, but I need to go out in order to be a better mom for you. And that's something I always say, and I always remember that who told me that, because it is something I can put in words to say that my son understands, and I understand that I do need that extra time for myself so I can be a better mom. I remember the other biggest lesson I have learned from you is how I worried about my husband's relationship with our son, and I tried to micromanage it. I saw it from different angles. Oh my God, he's doing this. And I would say something. And you taught me that it's his relationship. It is their relationship. It's going to unfold the way it's going to unfold. And it has nothing to do with me. And luckily, after something, doesn't go away it should or goes, I may be able to talk to my husband and say, hey, this is your thing, right? This is your trigger about something. It's not him. And not in the moment when it's really not appropriate for me to say to my husband when they are in the midst of whatever that is. And I'm really grateful for that. And I'm able to just not say anything, just stay quiet and take a deep breath and be like, it's okay. It's going to be okay. They have to go through their thing and I'm going through my thing in this parenting journey. And either we learn from it or we not. And then we are going to keep facing it over and over until we deal with it. Since we are in an RV traveling all over the United States right now, it's not as easy to listen to podcasts as it used to be. So I sometimes binge listen to at a time when I'm able to, since Wi-Fi is limited. And I find it's really grounding. It's really nice to be part of a community that is working for the same goals that I do to be a better mom. And I really say I just have to repeat that you have a knack to show certain side of me to be like, okay, is this when you're interviewing somebody or you have a podcast about going home and traveling that, yes, I'm traveling and this is what's going over here and how I am dealing internet or so forth. It's I really think you have a knack of picking subject that's really relevant in my life and in maybe everybody's life. So I really thank you for that. I just want you to keep going and do whatever you're doing because I think you are doing a phenomenal job choosing different subjects. I think you are driven to go deeper in anything. And I'm just happy to be along the journey and listen and learn along you because I think you know what we need. Let it be from relationships. I love the interviews with your daughter. The first time I listened to it, I just loved it. And it was so wonderful to hear her and her perspective and not just hearing you talk about her. So I really love that part too. I'm happy to go wherever you take us. I feel like you are a wonderful teacher to us all. And I'm just happy to keep listening. So please don't stop the podcast because I know you had a little bit of a hard time since your co-host cannot be recording with you. Just please keep going. Even if it's just less podcasts, but keep them coming because I feel they are lifesavers and they are wonderful to listen to on the road. It's so much better than just opening up an email or being just part of an online community. I feel I loved working with you. So for me, you have a special place in my heart. So I'm very partial. Since we are traveling in the RV together, most of the time we are together 24/7, and I'm still working on it. And I probably can count it on my hand. On one hand, how many times I had time just for myself when I'm not doing anything. And I was taking a walk on the beach. We were in Washington State, and somehow the Wi-Fi god was with me, and I was able to listen. Even though I didn't have service, my podcast stayed connected. It kept playing, and I was having this really wonderful walk on the beach. As I was coming closer to our RV, your podcast was ending, and you read the reviews out loud. And you read my review, and suddenly I felt extremely connected because walking by the Pacific Ocean on this really big beach, it was the end of the season for the state park. So there were really no people on the beach. And we had these huge trees lying by the sand. And I felt lonely. And hearing your voice and reading my podcast made me so connected. And I remember running back to the RV and telling my husband, I'm not that lonely. It's really nice to be part of your community. And because parenting is lonely.
And that's it for this very special episode of Authentic Moments. I want to say thank you to the lovely ladies who participated in this episode. Isabel, Tina, Katya, Carla, Angela, Corinne, Melanie, Ashley, Elizabeth. Thank you, thank you, thank you. I am honored to be with you. I am blessed to be part of this Authentic Moments community. And I vow to bring in amazing guests, great content, helpful advice, and continue this journey. Get in touch, connect with me. I always love hearing from my listeners. I appreciate your support. If you're not part of my private Facebook community, come and join us there. Go to my website, authenticparenting.com, and click the yellow button to join the community. It's a great space, and many of my listeners are there. This podcast has been a great source of happiness for me. I have mentioned that a few times on the show, and it has changed my life. So thank you, my dear listeners. I would also appreciate if you can take a couple of minutes and write a review for the show on Apple Podcasts. I have a link on my website to a quick video tutorial on how to do that. If you do not know how to write a review for a podcast, go to authenticparenting.com/podcast, and you will have a link there to that short video tutorial. And as always, connect to the present moment, to yourself and your children. Until next week, I am Anna Seawold. Thank you so much for listening. Hello and welcome to Authentic Moments. Oh. Hello and welcome. Let me do it. Okay, let's do it again. When I'm behind a mic, sometimes I wonder, hey, is this thing on?
I found a number of matches for Wonder.
Shut up, Siri.